Hey guys, have another Tomcat repaint video for you. Again, another Freewing F-14 twin 80mm EDF jet available from motionrc.com. This one we're going to paint up in the VF-1 Wolfpack scheme. A really cool scheme. Very rare. I've never seen any model painted in this scheme, so we're really excited to bring you guys this one. It's got a couple of really cool colors I've never seen on a Tomcat before. Your traditional light ghost gray. It's got this really weird like green gray color called light sea gray, medium gray, and then a really unique blue purple color called intermediate blue. I just happened to stumble on these pictures on a BritModeler.com website. A guy named Keith Svensden had the photos. Big thank you to him. Starting with the lightest color, we're going to shoot the light ghost gray on the bottom, 60% granite gray, 20% timeless gray, and then add about 20% of the total volume of Createx reducer. I like to start with the bottom of the airplane. You can experiment with different camo techniques and get comfortable using the different colors. If you haven't ever mixed up your own airbrush paints before, it's super easy. I like to buy a set of the Federal Standard colors from either Model Masters or Vallejo to use as reference point, and then from there you just kind of mix and match different paints and see what looks close. In this case, the medium gray and the timeless gray by Apple Barrel acrylics are almost a perfect match. Once you've poured the paint into an empty water bottle, we're going to be using the Createx reducer. I like to add between 10 and 20% of the total volume. It helps it flow through the airbrush smoother. These Apple Barrel acrylic paints are super cheap. I think they run about 50 cents a bottle. One bottle will be plenty for the entire airplane. Then you just shake it up for about 30 seconds and you're ready to spray. The consistency should be similar to the consistency of milk. There's not much of this light sea gray on the underside of the plane. There's different ways you can mask off camo patterns. You can either freehand it, or like I've done here, just use some brown paper bags. For soft edges, just ball up some masking tape underneath the paper bag. If you go the paper bag route, just make sure to shoot straight down onto the paper bag. And the higher off the surface the paper bag is, the softer the edge. That was all for the light sea gray on the bottom. Now we'll be moving to the medium gray. This part of the camo was free-handed as opposed to using the paper bag method, and it looks about the same. Again, the bottom of the plane is a great place to experiment with these different camo techniques. Moving on to the top part of the plane, we'll start with light ghost gray. Next up is the light sea gray. Next, we'll shoot the medium gray, which as you can see is the majority of the right side of the top of the fuselage. Last, we'll shoot the intermediate blue. We'll sweep the wings back here to get the pattern just right from the right elevon and the top of the right wing. The intermediate blue kind of goes straight from the wing back to the elevon. I just happened to stumble upon a photo that showed the light sea gray on the left top of the wing. This is the only photo I've ever seen to exist at the top of the airframe like this. And thank goodness I did, because the paint scheme shown on the decal sheet had the wings swept, so you couldn't see what the top of the wings looked like with the wings extended. The roundels on this paint scheme are really subtle. I went ahead and just masked them off as opposed to using traditional vinyl graphics. I used the transfer paper on the vinyl graphics of the roundels to create the masks, and it turned out pretty well. You can see the roundel on the left side of the fuselage there is really faded, and if you just used a traditional vinyl graphic for that, it would stick out too much and it wouldn't look right. My other graphics ended up being the wrong color. They gave them to me like a dark gray when they should have been an off-white. But it's not the end of the world. A few options here. You can use the transfer paper as the mask like I did for the roundels, where you just sit there with your X-Acto blade and cut around the graphic and then just use the transfer paper. Or you can just paint the vinyl graphics themselves just by removing that transfer paper, which is what we're going to do. I mixed up an off-white using granite gray and white. The hardest part about this process is then actually applying the vinyl graphics, because you have to remove it from that transfer paper on the sticky side down, which means you're going to have to use like an X-Acto blade to get under there and then manually place each one of the decals. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it's not that big of a deal. Later, while we're weathering the plane, we'll also weather all these vinyl decals. Doing this will soften the edges and make them look like they've been painted on. The 104 here was a little bold, so I shot it with intermediate blue to give it a weathered look. I just poured some burnt umber here on a paper towel and then blotted it on at random. Just used a clean paper towel here to break up some of the walkway. We're just marking off the wing covers for when we extend the wings. For the wing sweep weathering marks, we use dark granite acrylic, a little bit of water, and a paintbrush. A paper plate works great for the weathering marks. Because this is an A model Tomcat, we're going to switch up the nozzles. The stock nozzles are actually from a D model Tomcat. For weathering on the Tomcat, I like to use a dark gray and not a black. Black is a little too bold, but dark gray turns out perfect. I never just trace the panel lines. I'm always just spraying at random to add some depth and texture. The only other weathering I do is use the existing colors, wash it with about half reducer, and add a couple drops of black. Then I just go about spraying the plane at random spots. I'm not tracing over panel lines. I'm just shooting it sporadically here and there. It'll really give you a nice weathered finish. Make an effort to go back over all vinyl decals as well. It won't look right if all your decals are bold and the rest of the plane is weathered. You can also get these A model wheel covers on Thingiverse. Huge shout out to a guy named T-Cat. He really has got some great designs for these Tomcats.